Right, we pull ourselves off mute here. All right, I would like to convene the administration committee for the San Lorenzo Valley Water District on April 20th, 2025 at 11 a.m. Leah, would you please call roll?
Committee Chair Alina Lane,
Here.
Vice Chair Mark Smalley,
Here.
Cheryl Adams,
Present.
and Mark Dolphin is joining us remotely.
Here.
And Shelley Canton will be joining us as a member of the public today.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Oh, she is.
All right. Do we have any changes or deletions to the agenda?
No.
All right, and we have oral communications, this portion of the agenda reserved for any comment from the public, but I see no one in the room and no one online besides our committee members. All right, we can move on to new business, which is going to be personnel policies.
And that will be covered by our management analyst, Jen Torres.
Okay, so the remote work and flexible work schedule policy, we brought this to you guys before. I know it looks familiar. We had to make some changes to it after bringing it to the board in November. The other thing that was brought up by the board was that we should have two additional policies that went along with this one, which was the privacy and security and the cybersecurity policies. So we were told to bring it back with those two additional policies. So we're bringing it back here to the admin committee first. Get any thoughts, feedback from you guys, any edits that we suggest making before we bring it back to the board.
Okay.
So if you guys have any questions.
Right. Oh, I have comments, but since you're in person here, I think we can start with you, Cheryl.
Oh, okay.
Are you what? If you're not ready, we can pass it along.
Yeah, no, I have questions and maybe some comments too. One in general was let me get back. I hate doing things on the computer, but because I'm an old school person and my brain works on paper, but so are the two additional the privacy and security policy and the cybersecurity policy, were these policies before? Are we amending something or are these from scratch?
These are
brand
from scratch.
new. Okay. I can see how they relate to the remote work and flexible schedule policy, but I'm wondering, should they be separate, like standalone?
They are
policies?
standalone, but the flexible work policy actually references them, so that's why they're.
Sure. Okay, all right.
Are they referenced though?
Yeah.
Okay, because I had trouble seeing them referenced in the remote work policy, but if you say they're there, okay.
Okay. So just for like a clerical housekeeping kind of a thing, the way it's presented here, it's all one. So I would at least at the very beginning of each new policy, put a header on there that's a new policy.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, needs a header. Under the first one, which is on page, I'm on page 10, the first new one. I didn't have anything to say on that old stuff, but the authority, the policy is adopted by the board. By using the district's website, you consent to the collection and use of information as described below. Who is you? Just anybody?
Yes.
Okay. Is this something that is put on the website as well? Okay. All right.
It had a U there as well.
Okay.
Well, just the language, the tense. I didn't catch that one. I'll remember that from my comment.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a public facing policy, so that everyone knows when they go to our website.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Why did it do this to me? Open up. On page 12, under the district's sharing of information, it says personal information may be shared with third-party service providers for business purposes. Privacy policies. So this paragraph needs further explanation. Are these third parties allowed to use information to market to district consumers? What else did I say? Oh, that was it. So
What was the question?
personal information may be shared with third-party service providers. And it's for business purposes, but how do we know that this information that's shared is not going to be used to market directly to water district consumers? That's always a concern of mine, that we suddenly get bombarded with a bunch of ads and stuff. Personal information may also be disclosed. This is under D, under the sharing of information. Outside the district, when there's a good faith belief that disclosure is reasonably necessary to comply with applicable laws, regulations, legal processes, and enforceable government requests. I said this one also needs further explanation. The thing that popped up in my mind at this point was, okay, so are you going to, if ICE asks you for information about either an employee or a ratepayer, I mean, and they're saying that there's some legal reason that they want to do it, does that mean that we're going to disclose that information?
That would be a really good question for a legal team.
Okay, okay. I want it to be so tight that we're only disclosing for particular things, and in normal circumstances we wouldn't have had a problem. I wouldn't have had a problem with this, but now in these days, in these times, I think it's important that we really look at what we're disclosing and how much we're disclosing and who we're disclosing to, and what we even identify as a law enforcement agency.
Well, that's why we have the Public Records Act, which spells all that out. So we shouldn't be disclosing anything that's outside of the Public Records Act. If the Public Records Act says we have to disclose it, then we have to disclose it.
Okay.
And they will tell us how and when and so forth. There's times where things have to be redacted and so on. So
Okay.
So
we can't just give somebody personal
to
information out.
her point then, if that's what you're using as the governing or the guidance document for revealing that information, should that then also, as
It can be referenced in there as well.
described in, so that anybody who's then
Has a question about that.
looking at that,
Mhm.
at this policy for guidance in the future, then knows, okay, I should look at that one,
For more guidelines.
that
Right.
for more definition.
Right.
If that's where the definition is,
Yep.
we don't need to bring that into here.
And we are
It's
working on
simply-
a Public Records Act policy
Okay.
that'll be coming in the future.
Okay,
Okay.
great. But that would have been really good for me to be able to review. It would have probably answered some of my questions, or maybe just brought up more. Who knows? You
There's a
know?
lot of information on our website already, which maybe we
Okay.
should have linked in our memo, but yeah, the
Yeah.
Public Records Act policy is on our website.
Problem is all the policies kind of commingle and touch on each other, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially
get
with
you.
something like
That's
this.
Yes. Yes.
They kind of piggyback on each other.
Yeah. But just given our current, situation, or with law enforcement agencies, I thought maybe some clarification on that would be helpful. It was a concern of mine, kind of a red flag. Another use of you or your, and the limited use of personal information. So I think you answered that question, that this is a part of a public facing document. And so it's going to apply to anybody who uses the website. How information is protected on page 13. There's a paragraph, or there's a mention. In addition, District employees receive training on privacy and security. Good. Including appropriate access, use, and disclosure of customer information. And there's references further on down to training, which, I'm all about that. But when you say periodic, that's pretty nebulous. Here it didn't say that, but later on down it says periodic. And so
We can define periodic as annual or as job changes.
or if something really weird happens and you need to train everybody.
Right.
Yeah, that would be perfect if you could define that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, website accessibility. And you did a great job of talking about the ADA and making sure that the website is accessible. Another accessibility issue, which is harder, I think, to deal with, is language barriers. Are we going to address that in any way? And if so, how?
Well, yeah, we would have to follow whatever the local guidelines are. I know in Ridge Crest we had like 6 different languages we had to publish everything in.
It becomes
So-
pretty unwieldy, especially like in San Francisco
Yeah.
where they have,
So we will adhere to whatever the local governance says we have to do.
okay, all right. And then we go on to the next one, and I just said needs a header on the second one, the cybersecurity one. One thing I mentioned just to myself, and I didn't go back and look, but there's a lot of acronyms in here, and you did spell out SCADA. Is that what it is?
SCADA.
SCADA. Okay. But then there's some others that are not spelled out, and I was wondering if they were referenced earlier on in the document.
I'll go through again. With an IT background, I tend to throw out a few acronyms here and there, so I'll make sure that they're all.
Yeah, just make sure that the first time it's mentioned, it's spelled out, then it's great. But otherwise, I'm looking it up on Google. What does this mean? And then
Some
there's
of those
like,
will get multiple.
I know exactly.
Okay. No problem. We can do that.
Okay, that's really helpful. And then down in governance and responsibilities on page 16, the board of directors shall provide policy oversight for the district's cybersecurity program. Are we limiting their oversight to just the policy, or I'm genuinely asking the question, is that what we normally do?
You'd normally be over the policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time.
Oh, it's fine. I have a bunch of stuff too.
Okay,
We
okay,
can
hold
ask
on.
questions. It's okay. Don't rush.
all right. I think we already talked about this, but there's another periodic cybersecurity updates to the board of directors. Again, that word periodic. I would think after an incident, the general manager would want to report to the
And I
board.
think we can have in the beginning of these policies just a basic general list of definitions, like what periodic evaluation.
Yeah, so if there's a big incident, obviously you would need to report, but also annual report maybe or something like that. Yeah. Oh, come on. And then great, under employee and system users, that's on page 17. There's a reference on number C, and letter C.
And we know what you meant.
I know you did, but that just came out dumb. How often will any training happen? Is it annually? It says complete required cybersecurity training, so.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
reason we left a lot of those blanks open, to be honest, is that we're still playing around with some training.
That's
I found a
cool.
lot of them that I like.
Mhm.
But I'm working with HR to try to figure out if we're gonna have one training or multiple trainings, or if we're gonna need to maybe look outside and find one that combines everything. We have a couple that we have through our Vector Solutions, which is our training platform, but I kind of feel like you might need something else.
Yeah. And training maybe there could be like some clarification of training in general, how it's
Yeah,
provided.
and we'll list it, like phishing training and, identifying malicious emails and,
Mhm.
uh, identifying cybersecurity attacks, packet sniffing, stuff like that. Certain levels of what people need.
Mhm.
And you'd probably want to do this when you're onboarding somebody, but also maybe
I think the phishing one needs to happen regularly.
like
Mhm.
annually.
Annually, yeah.
Okay. I agree. I think that's a good idea.
When we first went to the cloud, our provider sent out phishing emails.
Yeah.
To see who was the happiest clicker.
Who was the clicker?
Oh, nice. I like that.
So, PDN consultants,
Mhm.
Science Tech, or my help desk people,
Yeah,
they did that.
they can do that?
Yeah.
And can they run a report like regularly, like right
Mhm.
today? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
We just gotta sign up for it again. We had it for a while and then it kind of got.
Mhm.
We had a gentleman who clicked on the email and forevermore he was known as the clicker.
The most prolific clicker is Octavio.
Oh boy. We don't mention it.
Hey, man, I did it once and I got in trouble, so.
Oh, yeah, you gotta be careful. And if you're not really just constantly on guard when you're opening your emails, you
It's
can
really easy to do.
accidentally do it.
Does anyone else get Chris Perry's all the time?
Yes.
Okay, you get one from him. Oh, you.
Like that. So
Mhm.
that calls me.
How did it never
That
resolve?
might be a good
Yeah.
disclaimer to add, yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so on page 18, under number 6, the district may utilize external cybersecurity consultants to perform independent assessment.
Mhm.
Not a problem. How often will they happen? How are they used? So,
We can find a lot of times it's every 5 years or so.
okay,
And they come in and they basically check your firewalls and stuff like that and just try to.
it's all good. Yeah, it's all good. I just had the question.
So
And-
maybe at a minimum of, if you wanna.
Okay.
Yeah. If you think 5 is the
At a
right
minimum
number,
of
if you
5.
think 3's,
Yeah.
Okay. Or after maybe some sort of
Definitely after. If we
Or
have-
Incident.
after the incident, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other second part of that question is how and to whom are these reports distributed?
It would mainly be myself, Jesse and Scott.
Okay.
just to
And
try-
then you fill in people as needed.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So we
We-
don't need to get the whole report. We can get the
Like, hey,
digested version from
can't
you.
open another
So
email.
when, we used to have our board meetings down there and I was over the IT department as well. And they would always ask me, what about the firewalls? I'm like,
Yes, yes, yes.
Smart.
It's top secret. Okay, the other one was just next one. It was I noticed it under the operation technology thing. It was, spell out those acronyms things. Because operations technology is one thing, but OT to me is an occupational therapist. So
Oh, doesn't stand for overtime for you?
see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cybersecurity training, again, the periodic thing. Yeah. And so I think we've hashed that out, no big deal. And incident response. What did I say? All suspected cybersecurity incidents must be reported immediately to the appropriate district personnel. Yes. So at some point, I suppose the board would also be, it would be reported to the board.
Would you agree with that, Jason? So that they would eventually, the accident response would be.
Incident
reported to the board?
response?
Yes.
Okay. You're
I'm
just
just-
talking about the immediate threat.
Yes.
There's certain people that have to know
Right away.
right away.
Mhm.
Exactly. And then later on, that would be reported to the board. Okay, that was it.
All right. Good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Director Smalley?
Sure. Cheryl covered a lot of the questions that I have. Do we have a cybersecurity program? Or is that
And
forthcoming?
that's hopefully forthcoming.
Yeah, we have a reduced version of it, and then it needs to be more robust.
Okay,
I have
So-
an assessment coming up to get a cybersecurity evaluation done
Ooh.
by the EPA
uh,
for potential funding. So,
no, the program I'm interpreting is a more procedural document.
Right.
With, that is an outcome, because I see it referenced here in the policy, but here's how we do what we do, when we do, for cybersecurity. Okay. Because I had questions about that program, but I guess, if that program is eventually going to come here,
It will.
okay, then I can ask questions about that. On page 8, I do see the reference for cybersecurity and privacy policies, plural. Are there other policies
That I'm aware of.
other than the
No.
ones? Okay,
mm-mm.
then I guess at that point, if these two policies are then part of this document, as attached or something like that. And I think at that point, when we see those for the first time, capitalize those so that it's calling out those two attached ones.
Oh,
So
okay.
making it
Mhm.
clear that
That there's attachments.
yeah, what the overriding one,
Mhm.
the policy, is referring to those two which are attached to it, so that I'm not then looking for, is there anything else?
Okay.
Okay, that's it. That's all the comments I have.
Okay. Mark Dolson?
Well, I'm happy to say that the people who preceded me covered everything for me.
Oh, okay. All right. And we do have an address for Shelley. She's still a member of the public?
If not at that.
Oh, okay. Perfect. All right. Shelley, go ahead though.
Hi, I kind of looked at this from,
I have to wait.
Yeah, we have to wait till it's public.
Oh, I have to wait till public comment. I'm sorry, Shelley.
it's okay.
All right. Gotta treat you fairly. All right. I'll come back to you after my comments. Okay. And I'll try to not take so long, but here we go. Is the remote work, the section 1. I don't know. I would maybe consider adding like kind of a brief positive framing kind of there, something like acknowledging that the flexible arrangement can support employee retention and operational efficiency, before that kind of like privilege and entitlement
I agree.
language.
Yes.
All right, and then moving to section 3. Oh, so it says the policy gives the general manager the sole and limited discretion with no criteria or process on how the decisions are made. So it could expose us to grievances or claims of inconsistent treatment. So maybe consider adding a minimum, a list of factors that the GM will weigh and okay. Just, a brief statement of the decisions that were made, consistently without discrimination.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's section 3A. I don't know what legal had to say about this, and but it might be an issue when you say elect that remote work is where does it say? That the employees bear full responsibility for ADA accessibility and ergonomic safety. So I guess that wording could be kind of risky as far as our Cal OSHA obligations. So I would talk to legal about that, and at a minimum, maybe soften it to say that the employee is primarily responsible because the district will retain certain baseline obligations, but I think that's a legal question.
In the home, though?
Oh, I
If
just,
if they're doing,
In the
if they're
home?
doing it to accommodate the district, then the district assumes the responsibility. If they're doing it to accommodate themselves, then they assume the responsibility.
okay. Well, California has these strict laws, just make sure we're okay with that.
I agree with the, having legal confirm that, but
Yeah.
I would be suspicious if I'm electing to work at home,
Mm-hmm.
that we would have any
Yeah.
requirements to go into somebody's home and verify.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are okay there. Um, oh, section 4. Oh, well, that's where it gets a little it's inconsistent because it says the flexible schedule arrangements require supervisor approval. It's kind of inconsistent with the rest of the policy, which says final approval is with the general manager. And so if there's like, steps that they need to take, like first it's your direct supervisor, then the general manager, just making sure that's consistent. And then also deleting the updated part in that section because for the final document.
Right.
Section 5. Oh, I just consider adding language about how the performance would be evaluated or documented and whether remote work arrangements will include specific measurable expectations. Because it just kind of says like, and meet productivity, performance, and expectations. Maybe just to tighten it just a little bit, what you're looking for there. All right, section 8. Um, Oh, so it says there, that's what that comment was about. The policy says that it could have written agreements they might be required, but if we have like ongoing work from home people, that's not just kind of one-time thing, maybe that we should be going with ongoing written agreements with those people, so it's just very clear about what you're expecting and have some clarity on that.
And that's why it says it may be required, just because every situation might be different, so we're gonna, play it by ear as those situations arise.
Yeah. Yeah, you have someone that consistently is always at home. Just I think that definitely,
Right,
yeah,
and they would
yeah.
have their own separate written agreement.
Okay. Um, he says when you're at section 9, when they're talking about removing them from the work from home, maybe consider adding a standard notice period of 5 to 10 days, except in case of operational emergency, just to give your staff some, flex time to understand that the policy is ending instead of it being abrupt. Possibly if you guys wanted to add that in. Oh, this one I think is probably a pretty big one. So something that's missing from that is geographic restrictions. So are these people within a certain mile radius? Can they work outside of the country? A lot of other policies have some kind of geographic restrictions on that. And then, oh, I guess there's a California Labor Code 2802 that has some reimbursement language that maybe might be added in there. Take a look at that one. And I guess we have and I don't know if it depend on what people are doing, if they're working from home with board meetings or something like that. If there's any consideration we need to be thinking about of confidentially or workspace privacy provisions, that they have a workspace that where the district communications aren't being overheard. So if that's necessary for anyone's job. So that was that for the first one. And for the privacy, just kind of like what we're using in the information, just kind of like help train on section 3. The help train employees was like a little bit vague. Just kind of what does that mean as far as training? What is it? Oh, for the cookies, when it says in there only within the online bill pay portion. I mean, you could consider language like currently to give flexibility if we use cookies in the future for anything else. That's what we're currently using it for. And then for data retention, I think it says retained as long as necessary. But maybe we reference the district's records and retention schedule right there, so then we know. Oh, and then the right to change policy section that's in there. Maybe consider adding a commitment to notify users or material changes, on the homepage for 30 days, just kind of some kind of limit there. Oh, then you had this section in there about that you're not collecting data on children under the age of 13, which is standard, but maybe adding a line, what happens if the child's data is inadvertently collected? We're deleting that information. Oh, and then I guess jumping to cybersecurity. What do we have? Oh, so throughout the whole cybersecurity thing, it says may include, and that's said heavily throughout the document, and maybe talk about doing shall include. On one of those lines, I think it makes a lot more sense. Like it shall include instead of like maybe it includes these things over here. It's just, tightening up that language. Uh, I have.
Usually there's things that must be included and other things that may
Mhm.
not be included, so
Yeah, usually
Shall
shall is only
be-
used if it's a legal
if it's a
requirement.
requirement, shall be but not limited to,
Yeah.
is sometimes used.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There's section 8. This is what I was talking about. It says you should always use the VPN, but the whole rest of the document isn't written that in that tone. Because you're not saying you.
Hmm.
You would say when traveling, I don't know. It says so the rest of the policy uses the formal third person institutional language, and so it just kind of it's the tone. It's the
Okay.
sorry, nitpicking, but I think there and you had picked out another U.
Mhm. There's
There's several you
user
said.
around, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Which on those ones, they were the public facing policies, but we can probably find another word. That works
Oh.
fine.
I mean, it makes sense if you're
Mhm.
on the website and you
That's
see a
directed towards the
disclaimer,
public,
it's,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it is pointed at you.
Oh, so and this must have been in another handbook that we looked at because it says section 9 um is incidental personal use of district computers tolerated because I feel like I read that it was like incidental use. It was like framed out in one of the policy documents that we reviewed, but I don't see that in here. It's not addressing any personal use. Like, are you allowed to go on your computer and Google the weather real fast? Or, we had that incidental use outlined in one of the other policies, but I didn't see it in here.
I don't know what other policy that would have been.
I remember reading it.
Usually addressed in the cybersecurity.
Yeah,
policy.
that's what I thought too. Okay,
We can-
we'll look. Yeah.
Yeah, I also had the periodic training, just, once you guys set a standard for that, we already covered that one.
Mhm.
Oh, there's the second person. Okay. Central. Oh yeah, section 14, it says that it requires an incident response procedure. We kind of covered this, maintained, but doesn't say who's responsible for creating it. And then also it says all suspected cyber security incidents must be reported immediately to the appropriate district personnel. I mean, who is that? Spell it out, because then everyone's like, oh, we're supposed to report this to the person. Who's the person?
Or the position.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe the job
position.
title.
Title, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think that is fine. That's I guess everything that I had. All right.
Public comment.
Public comment. Shelley, would you like to comment?
Oh, let me count the ways. No, I actually, I came at this from let's break it down because there's three here. The first one on the remote, that is usually worked out as far as what your restrictions might be, what the situation might be from a workforce initiative, either from a medical or workforce. That's how I took it. And then how does that training apply? Because yes, you normally have annual reviews, correct? It would be under your education section of your policies and procedures that on an annual review or upon hire, onboarding, change in work conditions, you would then need to go through what that looks like and then have a sign-off sheet of the main, however you have that, main points of what you cover, and then it gets signed off and goes inside the person's personnel file. So that for me was what I was looking at by what for the work from home, and how it's determined. And is it from a medical or is it from, we don't need everybody here in this building. Because remember at COVID, we did all kinds of interesting things as well, as far as how we managed our personnel and did they have to all be on campus or could they be doing this from home? And then the productivity also can be managed, especially if you're coming up with a business access, however that would be to do their work. You can say, oh, it takes them 5 hours to do one thing versus the other person takes 30 minutes. So you would watch how fast they go through or slow they go through whatever the work is that they have been assigned to do. So that's how I sort of looked at that as a face sheet that talks about the highlights of what you want which would go up under your educational plan for that one. That's all. I mean, and I think somebody was asking or somebody mentioned about, I'm going to go and look at the weather or read my emails. Well, that would be defined as under your breaks, lunches, correct? Because you would still be working, however, the work hours determined about how you would get a break and a lunch every, 15 minutes at this after 2 hour, however it words. Did I make sense with that one?
Oh yeah, I think it was specifically pertaining to cybersecurity.
It wasn't the timing of the looking at the weather, it was the use of technology to look at the weather.
Yeah.
So if the person has their own cell phone and they're still logged in doing company work, and I glancing, here I am right now. I'm going to glance at the weather. It's raining here, but
Thank you.
right, how do you?
Yeah, that would be incidental.
Yeah, it's incidental. Most policies have the incidental use is okay. You just have to define that.
Yeah, and especially when you're working through a company's log on resource kind of device. And that was the other thing, is it a company assigned device that gets checked out under that person's name? So therefore, your IT department would be able to monitor the keystrokes, yes, and where they go and what they do. So then that puts me back down now to the, what is it? The privacy and security policy. So we all embrace where we log on and this website uses and you click, I want only necessary or marketing. And so I think you have some control over, no, I only want what you collect by selecting that or deselecting the options that you don't want to have. That's how I interpreted that. Because I think every website nowadays has that option. And so if you are gleaning any information by my login and website visit, does that help a consumer approach for how we handle business? What is it that the website user is what is the most frequently traveled site? What's the issues? Is it taking twice as long for a demographic? I don't know. I don't know how it's parsed out. So for that, I was fairly okay with what it was trying to say. It's just or did I misinterpret that entirely?
No, you got it. It's basically like you looking at the efficiency of the website to see how we can better serve.
Yeah, that's how. And I think the internal data sharing is within internal, like I kind of said it twice, is more of a data gathering versus I've got the marketers, the ads, the people coming in, which, our information's out there. But how we control it and what we use it for is really kind of hopefully handled sensitively. Because I think Cheryl was saying, I don't want to get a whole bunch of marketing emails, right? Isn't that what you said? I think that's what you
Yes.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens
I
all
get
the
enough
time.
already. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Where did
Um,
I get this from?
somehow
Who
lost
stole my information?
oh, there I am. Okay, I thought, oh, I've lost the policies. Well, they went away again. I don't know. Thank you. What was the last one? There was one last. That was the privacy one. Cybersecurity.
Mhm.
That's an annual training, and I think as it was mentioned before, that should be an annual review. Must be an annual review. Or if there's been a breach, sometimes what we experience is from IT, it's all set up and managed through IT. Hey, we've had a breach. Here's the phishing. Another update. This is what to watch for. You could always check the from address to see, is it really from, Apple? No, it's from Hotmail. Okay, don't open it. So a clicker. I'm not a clicker, but it's awareness for either ongoing annual review. We've checked, and that goes into your folder that you have reviewed that. But I think every now and then, did I hear this correctly that you send out test fishes and to see who clicks on them? Did I hear that right?
The third party does it, yes.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Then you can say, hey, you click too much.
Click
Clickbait.
too much.
Okay.
Slow your roll.
Huh?
Slow your roll. That's what I tell people.
Like, ooh, click.
Yeah.
Especially if it's pets or something like that. Anyway,
Blame it on the cat.
so that's the cyber training, cybersecurity it's just part of a workforce initiative and should be, especially now, people should be very aware of how they're going to be possibly selected for information. And so you do it privately. You don't click on things privately. You should not do that in your workforce either, unless a trusted source. So maybe that's a review of what is a trusted source. How does that look? What's a gotcha moment? Oh, you clicked too much. So that was my concern about the cyber and how the IT policies takes these policies and wraps it in, especially if you've got an incident and you want to report that. What happens, like an incident report, command report? Where do we stop and what do we do in our next steps? And maybe you have an annual drill. I don't know. Just there we go.
All right, thank you, Shelley. And we have no other public members in the room or online. Do we have any further discussion from the rest of this committee?
We appreciate the feedback and look forward to making the changes and bringing it back.
Cool.
Yeah, I really do. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it looks like you put a lot of work into this, and I know there was a lot of comments, but hopefully they were helpful.
No,
And
it is helpful. It's like when you're working on these things, you miss a lot of these in the weeds.
Yeah.
And when somebody from the public or from another person's outside looking in, it's always helpful. So no, we appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah. All right. We have one last thing, and Oh, is it on here? Always have to make sure so we're not messing up the agenda. All right, yeah, we
Just
do
way
have.
at the top.
Yeah, okay, so we do have committee comments. So this is reserved for general comments from the committee and or for requesting future agenda items. Do we have any committee members that would like to speak now? Go ahead, Mark Dolson.
Thanks. Just a brief one. I- Um, without unduly burdening anyone, I just want to renew a request for keeping us apprised of status of ongoing items that may have dropped off our radar. So for example, the status of the website and things like that. It would just be helpful if we could get updates every so often on how things are progressing. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, and we did have a request from Director Smalling, and I did pass it along as far as trying to do something more like the engineering committee does, as far as looking forward to the future, kind of tying into what Mark Dolson just said. But it's a little bit easier for engineering to be able to project out for the entire year because their projects are all lined up. Is the feedback that I got back from it, and I was wondering if there was at least some way we could kind of have a list of potential. Oh, you have a list of potential that's
Okay.
coming forward.
Okay.
And the engineering committee's calendar for agenda items isn't for the whole year. It's maybe the next 2 or 3 months, and then it's an evolving
Right.
look ahead.
These are,
So-
these are living documents that should be
Yeah, it's
keeping us on track.
it's about a 3-month look ahead that Garrett is trying to use for us. And
Mhm.
committee members, I find it helpful because then we know kind of what we're slated to be talking about. And then committee members are making suggestions. Well, okay, based on those topics, here's something else that I think could be useful to the district.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
All right.
So a little bit of a heads up would be nice. Yeah,
It's coming.
okay.
Okay.
good.
Perfect.
It's
Be
coming.
careful with that.
Public comment on this line item? Shelley?
Um, I agree. Sometimes, you have like a staff meeting or we have a meeting and unfinished business or move to the next time frame. I think what you were saying, so you can say, "Oh, we talked about that 2 months ago. Where are we with that?" So it's kept rolling in kind of a table, what was left to do, who was assigned it, is there any homework on it? So I agree, kind of, Marka, that we get kind of refreshed and not necessarily, I don't know if you would call it an agenda item or just review of past topics that have no resolution that needs to be kept visible so that our brains get engaged. And
We
we
called it
never,
a tickler. It's just a tickler list just to keep it in your.
yeah, so that it's at the
Okay.
bottom of your agenda where you say last month we did that, but here we still need more information pending input from X department. Just, yeah, so it closes the loop.
All right. Well, unless there's any further comment, I can adjourn this meeting at 11:48.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.